Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Curtis Selby, your tired and not blogger, who logs in this case at 6:45 p.m. I had already picked the topic before Monday, but on Monday we had the double feature, the last call with Troy Patelli. Wonderful channel. You need to check them out if you haven't already. And we did a double feature on Monday. We did, well, I'd say we, really he did. I've already kind of identified myself with the group, which may or may not be that. Long and short, Troy Patelli, and every Monday, or nearly every Monday, he did a double feature. And this time he did Sylvester Stallone Dystopia. And I wanted to bring that up because probably 90% of the people who listen to this will be from that community. The other 90% of the rest will be personal friends, and the other 90% will probably listen for 2 minutes and go, "What the heck is this?" and move on. It's not my intent for that to happen. I would love for you to stay, and I promise that I'm really attempting to make it worth your time this time. There were quite a few similarities between the two movies of Judge Dredd, but more specifically also Demolition Man. To me, one of the primary similarities was that in both dystopias, people had to do some mental gymnastics in order for the system to survive. It would collapse if you didn't have these certain mental gymnastics. In Judge Dredd, the mental gymnastics was that you could put judge, jury, and executioner in one body of people and yet still end up with appropriate law and justice. In Demolition Man, the mental gymnastics are a little more about what I'm going to be sharing. Essentially, people lived in a dystopia, but they believed that they were in paradise. It's kind of more or less a tongue-in-cheek, more innocent version of the Brave New World. But the truth is, any and all dystopias, I believe, have to have as one of their cornerstones the ability to convince vast numbers of people to believe things that are not according to what they know or see. And I am terrified that we're just about there. I would like to welcome Enigma Severus. Why will you be happy? Do you have a woman for me to meet who looks like Daisy Ridley? I really wish I had a clever answer to that. I guess if I'm going to stay consistent with my stream, I'm going to say that, of course, we have something like that. The government is going to have her all ready and trained for you. Like that's ever going to happen. So anyway, but you will, I think, find somebody. You're a pretty cool person. Heck, if I can at least find someone to date, you can find someone to truly love you. So let's dig into the topic a little bit. For the beginning, I don't know if I've really connected the dots very well here, but for the beginning, I want to refer, as a good narcissist would, I want to refer to myself. And what I'm going to start off with is the Great Reset. This is really where I get the phrase "you will be happy" from. It's from the conspiracy theories that have evolved around the idea of the Great Reset. Basically, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Now, as I've stated before, one of the big purposes of this blog is I'm trying to figure things out myself. And I'm just happening to drag you poor people along, possibly against your will. I know. No, I am also not a fan of the idea of the Great Reset. But I think a fair number of people are fans of it. And I believe that even if there are not those, there are definitely people who think that we're taking things out of context, we're blowing things out of proportion, and I want to be careful to not totally justify those claims. Yeah, I know this is a dangerous topic, but I'm just basically analyzing it, thinking more or less out loud. In my blog, about I guess it was a little bit before the disease, or about the same time as the disease that shall not be named. It was the first time I'd heard of the Great Reset. It was a friend of mine who was talking about it, and essentially he was saying that that's exactly what we need. That this sickness has revealed the holes in our society, the weaknesses, and that the best way to go forward would to have a great reset and start with kind of a Star Trekian. And I don't say that to be mocking, because I actually love this person that told me about it, and I love that they believe that we could have something better. I don't want to mock that, but I've mostly been steered, right or wrong, in the direction of thinking that the Great Reset, as it is being handled, as it's being introduced, is possibly not a good thing. Enigma Severus, this problem of the Great Reset is that authority is built into the Great Reset. Someone has to have control over something always. And yeah, it's not wrong. If men were angels, we wouldn't need governments, but evidently we do need governments. So yes, control will always be a factor until people are, perfect. Let me dig into my blog post and see if any of this makes sense. Quoting Prince Charles' speech to the World Economic Forum launching the Great Reset. As we move from rescue to recovery, therefore, we have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. We must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play. Now, I know a lot of people will look at that as heroic, and you'll have another set of people who will look at that as frightening. I'm going to refrain. I mean, I've already revealed my own bias, but I'm going to refrain for now from trying to say anything about it. At the time, I was still lame enough to be willing to use Wikipedia as a source. The Great Reset, according to Wikipedia at the time, is the term for the 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum held in June of 2020. Quite a few bigwigs were there, a lot of the usual suspects in conspiracy theories. It was convened by Charles, Prince of Wales at the time. God rest her soul, now the Queen is gone and he is the King. And the purpose of the meeting was rebuilding the economy and society at large following the pandemic, which at the time was in its virulent 25th week. and the world was in full-scale panic. At the time, I had tried to put in an image of the virus that shall not be named, and it was fairly nearly instantly taken down. But they didn't block the whole post. I'll give them credit for that, but they were not going to let me show that virus. So I decided to see if Disney was more forgiving, and so far they have been. The picture of Thanos snapping his fingers, which to me is a good enough analog for the whole thing, has not been taken down. I can hear some of my friends now. What could possibly be good about a reset? Because I decided in that post that I would look at the positive side, the negative side, and look at history to see if we could learn anything. Even at the time, actually, especially at the time, I think some of the censorship has abated mildly, but it's still there. But I approached it with a lot of trepidation. I'm not a fan of trilateral commissions, Illuminati, or Bilderbergs, but I also was trying to learn. And in my attempt to be clever, I posted a picture of the tick saying, "So, idea, man, what's the big idea? We thought we could steal a lot of money and then we'd never have to work again. You cads." Okay, so until recently, at any rate, we all got a trial by our peers. The exception, and logically, the person that does not deserve a trial by his peers is Donald Trump, as we all know. But other than him, we are all innocent until proven guilty. So, what the heck is good about the Great Reset? Well, just off the top of my head, society has taken a ginormous hit. And frankly, things done the same old way have not been working, frankly, through most of my lifetime. So, on the surface, it does sound like it could be a good idea. Like the Constitutional Convention in our country, the founding fathers of the US gathered together and cobbled together a system to enact a form of government that would be better than the old one. I know people who argue that it isn't and wasn't, but I digress. And I think we can admit that at least till the 70s, the experiment was largely successful. Again, I know very good and intelligent people who disagree with that, but I think most of the people who will be listening to me would agree that until the 70s, largely the American experiment was a success. Like the founding fathers, we find our world in a moment of crisis. War and plague have both hit the world, and who knows if the other two horsemen of the apocalypse are far behind. To quote His Royal Highness Prince Charles, there is a golden opportunity to see something good from this crisis. Global crises know no borders. Certainly the Democratic Party does not. Yeah, I know, I'm revealing my bias, I'm sorry. And highlight how interdependent we are as one people sharing one planet. In the same speech, he says, unless we take action and build in a greener and more inclusive and sustainable way, then we will have more and more of these words that I probably am not allowed to say. But I was at least allowed to write it. And may I add, myself personally, to his thinking, that unless we change the small thinking that has led to the current crisis, not only will we face these things again, but I suspect they shall get progressively worse. In the blog post, I was kind enough to leave the link to the speech. I have not done so here because I'm just not, don't have my act together. On the other side of the argument, is it just my imagination, or is there a devil twisting the wishes to make a better world and make bitter the potion we would quaff? And here is one of my favorite roles of Robert De Niro. I actually did not like that film hardly at all, but I loved Robert De Niro's performance as Lou Cipher, the ill-hidden devil in that movie. Did not mean to open that. And I can just imagine the devil saying, "Of course, you can have world peace if you are willing to pay the price. Sign here on the dotted line. Everything will be okay." Again, I'm revealing my bias. Possibly this is not a fair trial. The negatives. At first, all I have to lean on is a gut feeling. Some nagging voice says that something is not right. I remember the quote that all these conspiracy videos keep bringing up: "You will own nothing and you will be happy." What is that all about? I looked that up, and even at the time, the internet basically exploded on me. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but somewhere around 2019, 2020, the internet hugely changed. You used to be able to look things up from the viewpoint of the right, and you could find things. And you could find things that weren't redacted and weren't judged and didn't have labels saying that this is false. It got pretty hard to do that. Nowadays, you have to kind of go to X if you're going to find anything like that. At the time, I found conspiracy theories, theorists, outrage, a song that was made about the meme by someone who was going to be in charge of the censorship bureau and was not put in charge of it because enough people fortunately screamed bloody murder, but the damage was still done. The first place I went to at the time was Reuters. They said that they had debunked this. There's no record of this ever being said by the World Economic Forum. So then I asked myself, why is it then that so many people quote it? Why are people hopping up and down if it was never said? Now, it had to come from somewhere. Even if it's a lie, somebody had to start the lie. And I've also got to tell you this. If the Great Reset is going to involve owning nothing, I call a BS, because at the very least, I need to be able to own books and my dog. If I can't at least own that much, I'm not going to be happy. I just don't care what you do with the rest of the reset. I will not be a happy man if I'm not allowed to own books and a dog, and maybe some coffee, and maybe a computer, and maybe tickets to Jamaica. Anyway, I digress. So I go to Reuters. I looked up the fact check in the Netherlands and the World Economic Forum, and it's all fake, and it's all this, and it's all that. And finally, I did some digging, and I found the original source. "You'll own nothing and be happy." Originally, "You'll own nothing and you'll be happy." It's a catchphrase originating from a 2016 essay by Danish Member of Parliament Ida Auken, which was included in the video 8 Predictions for the World in 2030 by the World Economic Forum. While the prediction was originally explained as all products will become services, it has since been increasingly regarded as a harbinger of dystopian times, when the human right to property would be abolished for the benefit of the few. Online, the catchphrase and image macros based on it have been used to comment on socio-political and economic issues and developments. And once again, I was not smart enough to leave links in the chat, but anyway. So, fine. Maybe this was just a slip of the tongue of that member of parliament. And it does seem I'm always trying to be centrist. I'm always trying to be fair. It does seem a little bit unfair to hold the organization responsible for one person's ill-chosen words. Still, I have to admit that even at that time, my spidey sense was still tingling. And I thought I'd be clever again and share the wonderful Lucifer that is now on Netflix. Me wanting to rule the world? You've got this all wrong. My father is the one who has to rule everything. Tell me, what do you truly desire? I thought I was so clever. Probably not. I won't bore you with my analysis about the plagues of the past because that's really not my point. The topic is one, what does it mean that we'll own nothing and we'll be happy? And number two, well, I'll get into that in a little bit. At the risk of being boring, I'll share a little bit more from another previous post. I did one about the usual suspects. The title of this one, I won't read the whole thing, I promise, was They Are Dividing Us, but Who Are They Anyway? And I wrote about the usual suspects of the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, and the World Economic Forum. I will skip the first two because honestly, everything I've been able to find out, there's a huge percentage of each organization that belongs to all the other two. Obviously, I don't have exact figures, but I would guesstimate that 2/3 of the people, if you're in one of them, you're in all three. So it's all the same freaking thing. I mean, for all intents and purposes. Okay. I wonder which of these two fellows most needed a shower after this meeting. Klaus Schwab, founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum, shaking hands with Vladimir Putin, because as we all know, before he invaded Ukraine, Vladimir Putin was actually on the good list of the World Economic Forum. Everybody forgets that. He was on there at least once or twice. He spoke there, and they basically treated him with honor and respect, whether they should have or not. No group of people can ever be branded as perfectly evil. So please understand, I don't doubt some good has come from this forum. At the time I looked at their website, I'm not going to make you guys look through it. Paradoxically, while the Economic Forum is more open by leaps and bounds than either the Trilateral Commission or the Bilderbergs, I still find myself puzzled. When I specifically looked them up at the time, all I could get on the negative side on the first page was Russell Brand discussing his fears about them. And everyone thinks I'm an idiot for listening to Russell Brand. That's okay. Maybe I am. All the rest of that front page was full of glowing praise of World Economic Forum programs, and all of this praise comes from World Economic articles themselves. Possibly not logical, but I smell a rat. Even when I deliberately Googled the World Economic Forum is evil, the first 4 suggestions are positive World Economic Forum articles. Now, surely Google isn't in cahoots with these guys. And I guess I will go ahead and share this since I was clever enough to read you that portion. Looky here, on the very World Economic Forum webpage, one of the biggest glowing partners, they even have their own page. A lot of these organizations don't. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, however it's pronounced, founded Google. Since then, the company has grown to more than 70,000, blah, 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 blah. In October of 2015, Alphabet became the parent holding company of Google. But anyway, the long and the short is Google's one of the partners. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the search is slanted or anything, but you have to at least ask the question. Enigma Severus, your brain, Economic Forum is evil. FYI, your statement about Google is wrong. Oh, it probably is. Please feel free to correct me. No idea. Good evening, Matt Cheatwood. I will be texting you via Facebook Messenger later, if that is okay. Trying to set up plans for the weekend. Yes, Enigma Severus, I did, even at that late date, realize that Google is partaking in what can be seen and what can't be seen. I tried a long time ago to share that with the community. Matt Cheatwood was involved with that, and he was involved on the positive, in other words, on the side of intellectual honesty. But I had a lot of people in the community that were like, "What in the world are you doing?" And I finally just stopped talking about it. So, very good, Matt. Thank you very much. You are a gentleman and a scholar. And there are 4 lights, and I'm getting there, I promise. So why Picard and his Cardassian tormentor are on my icon. And then after this, I went to the site and looked up the partners. I'm not going to do that now. And you don't necessarily have to take my word for it, but it's, and I don't think it has changed in the last 4 years. It is simple as anything to look up who the partners are on the forum. It's a very long list. Statistically speaking, granted, you will have some bad eggs in any of them. Still, I, for one, feel a bit nauseous seeing the Bank of China, China Construction Bank, China Energy Investment, General Electric, Apple, Goldman Sachs, Nestle, PB, Walmart, Microsoft, China Bohai Bank, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase Bank, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, HPC, Dow Chemical, Dow Jones & Company, Bayer, Visa, Pfizer, Lockheed Martin. I do not know about you. Again, I know these are big organizations. There are likely lots of good people in them. I've worked for at least 2 of them. But these are not organizations that I see in a positive, pro-freedom, pro-liberty, we love the American people light. So now on the positive, they did give Sadhguru a forum. And in my humble opinion, that is a good positive thing. And some of the articles, if you look at them, if you take them at face value, which you don't necessarily have to, but if you do, it does look like a lot of good work is being done by the World Economic Forum. And yes, I honestly do want some kind of a great reset, but not one run by the organizations I've just listed. I didn't do it in this post. I did it in another one. At the risk of offending people, because I am actually very pro-capitalist, but I'm also very suspicious, like I say, of these companies and organizations. And I took, it may not have been this exact list, but I took a list of several of the companies that uphold the World Economic Forum, and I I added together their profits for the year 2020 or 2019, I guess, because it was a year behind. And the profits were so vast. And again, the internet is suspect. We just maybe not established it, but we at least have a prop here that it is possible that the internet is not our friend, even though I thank the internet for the platform. But the most conservative, and when I say that, I mean the largest estimate that I could find in a quick, rough search of how much money it would take to end world hunger was a drop in the bucket compared to that. And so take that for what you will. I know that there's probably practical reasons or political reasons, but as far as money is concerned, we've got the money to feed the world. Now, I know what Matt Cheatwood is going to say, and he is actually right. Does that mean that the government should force them to do it? Well, honestly, no. That is not the case. But I just think that it is interesting. We have the money, but we're not going to do it. The dilemma of a reset, according to Matt Cheatwood, is maintaining control once you have used influence to undo the means by which control is maintained. And I think that's absolutely right. One of the big problems, I won't go too deep into this right now, this is not exactly the topic, although it does pertain. I think a lot of us are losing the belief in the legitimacy of our government. We're losing belief in the legitimacy of our institutions. We no longer believe that they are made up of good people who are looking out for the good of us. We believe that they are people who would throw us under the bus in a heartbeat. If you want to say that one side is wrong for believing that elections are not what they seem, because, I can't say what I really mean, but, well, can you really blame that side for thinking that at least the leaders that we have would be willing to do some finagling with numbers if they're able to do it? I frankly don't. Whether it happened or not is not my point at this time, but I am absolutely not surprised that people think that it is happening. And then, of course, on the other side, wanting to believe that the Republican Party wants to censor things and wants to control us in certain ways, wants to control us in the bedroom. I'm not meaning to argue that that is true, but I can't blame the basic Democrat for feeling the way they do, that they don't think that these people are out for their own good. Matt Cheatwood, both sides have complained about tainted elections just in the last 8 years. Yes, true enough. And this is the thing that exasperates me about the censorship on it. If it was just one side making the claim, but it's not. And I do not understand why one side is censored and the other one is not. But then again, I know I have left-leaning friends who make legitimate points in certain cases. Certain books are banned. I'm not going to poo-poo that or disregard it. It may sound like I am, but I don't mean to. Enigma Severus, Republicans don't desire to control people. We want to give power back to the people. And I do believe, Enigma, that the base, like the people on the ground level, I think that's absolutely true. I don't know about the leadership. And when I say the leadership, I'm not necessarily, please just divorce Donald Trump from that leadership, which I know is like trying to swallow an elephant. But I feel like a lot of people who have been entrenched in power, even in the Republican side, don't have our best interests in heart. And again, I'm not necessarily absolving Trump of that, of having anything like that, but I don't want to muddy the waters. I know that, like, when I criticize Trump to certain Republicans, I'm suddenly the Antichrist, and when I criticize Biden to certain Democrats, I'm suddenly the Antichrist. So I'm not necessarily intending to criticize them as people, but I think the parties and whoever the hell's pulling the strings, I think we can absolutely criticize them. So I've done a very lackluster job of talking about the World Economic Forum, but what I'm trying to lay out here is, at the very least, there are people, and I am one of them, who believe that there is a movement within the World Economic Forum. It may not be the entire organization, but I think that there is a strong number of its members who do want that great reset to involve us owning nothing, and us being not them, rules for thee and not for me, but the basic citizen will own nothing, but yet will be happy. And going back to the beginning of the stream, which possibly none of you heard, but upholding dystopias often, usually involves mental gymnastics on the part of the people who uphold it, or otherwise it can't stand. Hail at Sashi, the man from the future. You will be happy is still better than government telling you you are happy. That's the Asian way. You guys need to catch up. And don't worry, Sashi, with the industry and great attitude of the American people, I don't doubt that not only we will catch up to Asia, we will probably surpass them in the capacity of governments telling us that we are happy. My avatar image is all about keeping up with the Kardashians. In fact, I think that's exactly what Patrick Stewart is saying there. I stayed up all night to watch the Kardashians. And you can see it from the pain in his face. So very well. On to my next thing. This is going to seem like a little bit of a disjointed thing, but I promise I have a reason for it. I'm going to make this just a touch personal. And I know that that can be a dangerous thing to do, but this whole topic is dangerous, as Enigma Severus pointed out. I don't know if it's courage or foolishness or just the fact that I don't really have much to lose that allows me to even bring it up. But I have quite a lot of experience with abusive people. I have a, I'm not saying that you need to rely on it, but I can usually tell, I can usually sense it. It takes a little while, sometimes it takes a few minutes, but, and sadly, in the case of my ex-wife, this capacity failed me almost completely. But you kind of start to get to know the tricks of the trade, get to know the way that abusers and narcissists think. Toward the end of my marriage, I barely spoke 2 words in the last 2 years. And there was something that my ex-wife said that has always stuck with me. I didn't answer it. I answered her with silence. Might be another reason why I love the movie Silence, because I've learned to often respond to abusers with just silence. Anything I say is just going to egg them on. Sometimes that's enough to disconcert them and get them to leave you the hell alone. And sometimes it's not. You have to get a little more up in their face. But at the end of our marriage, she asked me a question. It was very simple. She made the observation that I never laughed anymore, and she asked me why. Now, at the time, it seemed like a weird irony. I wanted to say, well, give me a reason to laugh, or I have no reason to laugh. But I've done a lot of thinking about it since then. And I've come to realize that it's not enough that your life is run by this person or group of people. It's not enough that you obey. It's not enough that you acquiesce. You must do it with a smile. You must do it in a happy, positive, cheerful way. You need to be happy about owning nothing. You need to be happy about not being able to get a job that is fulfilling. And so I'm going to say hello to Lady Mitz. Thank you very much for showing up. I'm hoping to make this worth your time. I'm not going to go through the entirety of this, but gaslighting to me is one of the key things. Until recently, I would have said that we lived in a soft tyranny. I think that's becoming more and more of a hardline tyranny. But one of the big tactics of the abuser who is not doing it, or not capable in some cases of doing it physically, is gaslighting. I think we all know what that is. For those that don't know, it's basically, it comes from a film. This man was driving his wife insane by turning on this gas light, but then it would be off when he got home, and she would be like, because she had this weird nervous disorder, and she'd be, oh my gosh, why is it off now? And but it's always been off. And like, I guess he finally drives her crazy. I haven't seen the movie. I need to watch it someday. The reason I bring it up is because of two or three of these tactics that I want to share. Gaslighters override your reality. And now maybe you're getting a tiny clue about why I have Patrick Stewart on here. Enigma Severus, I'm hoping we do not get to the point of government controlling our lives, curfew, permissible groceries. If we do, I respect that, sir. I will not repeat it because I'm a coward, but I respect it. I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly. I don't know if I have I don't know what I don't know what the right thing to do is, and two, I don't know if I have the strength to endure all of it, but I guess it is possible, and we'll all find out. At its heart, gaslighting is overriding your reality to the point you question your own judgment. Like most things, there are degrees. It can be as small scale as telling a child, you can't be hungry, you just had a snack, whereas large scale is denying fully obvious facts, such as they give the example of a 2015 story about a man who got married, posted the wedding photos on Facebook, and then told his long distance girlfriend it was a figment of her imagination. To sum up, if the gaslighter had a mantra, it would be, if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes true. I will skip down, not because the other points aren't important, but because they don't really have much to do with the point I'm trying to make. Tactic number 4, gaslighters make disagreement impossible. So they basically set up these scenarios whereby they discredit you, they discredit your frame of reference, they discredit the pillars and the logic and whatever it is. It may not have been logic, the emotions, whatever upholds your belief. They've got to discredit that, they've got to knock it down. And once you're discredited, any argument you may have is casually written off. When credibility is undermined, you're crazy, a liar, unstable, a failure. You have lost your mind. Anything you say is automatically suspect and builds the case against you. Therefore, you can't disagree or protest. And the louder your objections, the more your gaslighter can smile smugly and say, see, I told you so. And this is why at the end of my marriage, I wasn't speaking anymore, because it didn't matter. No matter what my objections were, whether they were founded on logic, scripture, what she had just said, didn't matter. I was the crazy one. And in my humble opinion, I believe the media is doing that to us. And as I've said before, it's not so much the frightening to me that they're doing it, because they've kind of been doing it for a long time. But what has frightened me is seeing friends, good, wonderful friends with high intelligences, willing to do good things for people, believing some of the bullshit, a lot of the bullshit. And then suddenly it's all of the bullshit. It's hook, line, and sinker. I got a text from a friend, our Democratic friends are excited about Kamala Harris. I really don't intend to tell you what to think. It's okay if you are excited about her, but I would like someone to explain to me why you would be excited about it. I don't understand. I don't see how she's a great candidate. I don't mean to be guilty of the exact opposite. I'm not meaning to gaslight. I just, at least with Biden, he had experience, he had history. Arguably some of it was bad. And yes, it's right. He's got dementia. He needs to step down. All of that's true, but please don't tell me you're excited about her, because I don't get it. And maybe I'm the one that's wrong, and possibly I'm the gaslighter here. Anyway, tactic number 5, gaslighters make you agree with their own point. See, they need the world to conform to their standards. They need the very individuals they gaslight to agree with them. It's not enough. In this example, she says that sexual harassers were just having a little fun. They need the target of the harassment to agree that it was all just a little fun. And yeah, I do believe that both sides, respectfully. Again, I'm not trying to attack anyone's candidate. It may sound like I am, but I think both sides have had elements in their party that have subsumed to this, and I think the media has completely succumbed to this. Ideally, the target would not only agree but also believe that she deserved to be undermined because she was being crazy, overly sensitive, or imagining things. Refusing to witness or substantiate your reality is invalidation, but gaslighting means getting you, the target, to invalidate yourself as well. Not only does nobody take you seriously, you wonder if you can take your own experience seriously. Your common sense, your feelings, your memory, what you've seen before your very eyes. I got to tell you, there have been times when I've wondered if I'm freaking schizophrenic or not. And that's another reason why I do this blog. I want you guys to let me know if I'm imagining things. Enigma Severus, we have been training for getting back into the school rhythm. We are discussing different expectations. This is Enigma Severus. How to handle situations in classroom and other things. What I notice is that there are those who behave like sheep and are very ignorant as to the information offered to them. And they expose their ignorance in what they say and how they behave. And Enigma Severus is very adamant that I learned this. It is correct that the news is misinforming the public. Great. Now, use that truth as a backdrop to determine who people are, where they're lacking. And he's about to make another point. I will let him make that. You have been given the ability to see these shortcomings. Most people are simply sheep and have no clue as to what they're doing. Use that ability. You've been. I thank you very much for the encouragement there. I think you're 100% right. Whether I have the courage to do as you say, again, we'll find out. But absolutely, it is. The other purpose of this blog is I'm trying to cast off some of the sheep aspect, but I want to do it in an appropriate way. I've also learned that sometimes when you start trying to assert yourself, you can go too far the other way. You can become a ridiculous bully, and I don't want to do that. And hello, Whiskey Flats Garden Railroad. Thank you very much for being on here. I was hoping that you could. I'm maybe about halfway, 2/3 of the way through this. Some folks are willing to allow themselves to be led like sheep. Yeah, sadly true. And who knows, possibly some people should be led like sheep. But I don't think that's not what America was founded on. So, Enigma Severus has another couple of points. Just because you know who is ignorant and who is not does not mean you need to tell anyone. Yeah, that's a fair point. It's just information for you. Look at the movie Ronin. I haven't seen it. Or spy movies. They take the information and they say nothing. No need to tell people what you know. And yeah, that's not wrong too. But then it would be very boring if I just came on here and said nothing. But it is also likely true that maybe I should find other topics or something. And maybe I'll be smart enough to do so in the future. But for now, I made this decision. I must take the consequences. Whiskey Flats says they should be allowed to be led if that's what they wish. Now, one of the other aspects of gaslighting that article didn't bring up is we're not going to stick to a definition when we make our arguments. Because you see, if we stick to a definition, then it is possible that the other side is going to win because they may have better logic. They may have better, ethos, pathos, logos. Pick your poison. But if we have no definitions, then we can constantly shift and slide. C.S. Lewis talked about this a lot more eloquently than I am. We can kind of shift and slide, and no matter what the opponent says, it doesn't matter because, we don't have definitions. We just have a bunch of anger and righteous indignation, and we know that you're bad. Bah, 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 bah. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. No, Sasha, I haven't seen Ronin. My life has been something. Enigma Severus, as you live your daily life, people will tell you who they are. Just ask them simple questions. I've honestly perfected the art of asking questions for information for myself and no one else. That is fantastic. I need to learn that skill better. I used to think I had it, but I don't think I have it anymore if I ever did. Whiskey Flats, those of us that would like to make informed decisions for ourselves, we should have that option. Yeah, and it gets complicated, doesn't it? Because how do we divide? How do we divide peacefully, if it's possible, into a society of one side wants to be led and one side does not? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But I'm going to share a little bit of this because to me, this is one of the key aspects of what I'm talking about. We're going to change the definitions. We're going to alter what the definitions are. And if possible, we'll even erase them.
Do you struggle between telling the difference between a man and a woman?
Can a woman have a penis?
The world's
most controversial question?
It's pretty obvious. It's pretty basic stuff, isn't it?
What is a woman as far as you're concerned?
Well, a woman is somebody like my mother who gives birth or has the capacity to give birth to children.
What is a woman?
Yeah, of course I know what a woman is, an adult human female. And what you're actually, though, asking when you ask that question is, I think, what's my approach and view about how we as a society grapple with a situation where people are questioning and wanting to change their gender, their identity.
Annalise Dodds, your Women's and General Equality Secretary, says women cannot have a penis. Another of your senior colleagues, Stella Creasy, says a woman can have a penis. Sakir, can we put this to bed? Who's right?
Well, look, Nick, let me take this head on because you challenged me on this last time. And let me be clear, for the vast majority of women, this is all about biology. And of course they don't have a penis. We all know that.
Of course they can't have a penis. We live in truly times of intellectual giants. Whiskey Flat says that Ronan is good. We need to revisit the Age of Enlightenment. I would not disagree with that. Enigma Sever says, I love Ronin. Was a great action movie with very little CGI and the best car chase in films.
And of course, they need safe spaces, and we'll support that. I've been supporting that for many years. And of course, we want more equality for women. Again, the Labour Party's been fighting.
Because you see, and I know I'm being a little unfair here. I shouldn't be telling you what to think about what this gentleman's saying, but I can't help but comment that I feel like I'm being told that if I believe a woman is someone with certain biological hormones and parts, I'm being told that she can't have a safe space. To me, that is an ad hominem attack. Very subtle, very close to being like a gaslighting thing. Maybe I'm being unfair to this guy, but
Fighting that cause for a very, very, very long time. So for the vast majority of women, biology is what matters, and it's very clear they don't have a penis. But let's not leave out of account that there is a small minority of individuals who were born in a gender they don't now identify with. Some go through a process, others don't, and that is very traumatic for them. And I, for one, I'm going to respect and support them. And I think that's actually when most people step back from this. They think, well, that's a fair assessment here. 99.9% probably of women, it's all biology. We must support them, safe spaces, more women's equality. But let's not pretend or disparage or fail to support a small group of people who actually struggle with their gender identity. And I think that we can resolve this if we all approach it in that spirit.
Look at Keir Starmer. He wouldn't answer the question, can a woman have a penis? Will you answer that question, Emily?
Sure. Let me put it this way. I know of a woman who was called Doski Assad, and she lived in the Kurdish region of Iraq. She was 23. She was a makeup artist, hugely in demand at weddings, getting brides ready and so on. And one day, earlier this year, one of her brothers tracked her down to her salon, and he kidnapped her, and he tied her up, and he shot her in the head and the...
Now, again, I should let you do your own thinking, but are any of you hearing an answer to the question in this? I mean, it's an emotional story. It punches you in the gut. I feel very bad for the person that was violated and victimized here, but what has it got to do with the answer to the question? Enigma Severus, asking questions is supposed to give information only for you. Example, if I want to know if a student is in a specific class because of cheating in that class, I will choose a student who does not think twice about my question. And I will ask, hey, were you in that class earlier? I will name a different class. And then we'll answer, no, I'm in whoever's class. Sashi says, Safe Space was a proposed name for a hero in Marvel Comics. The project was laughed into oblivion. Enigma Severus, the information tells me they were or they were not in a specific location that I needed to know about cheating. I say nothing about cheating. I just ask stupid questions to get information that I never even asked about. Oh, that's yeah. I mean, maybe in a way that's what this Nick Dubois, who I really don't know anything about, so don't hammer me if he turns out to be a villain and a, you know, Lord of the Sith. But I think that in a way that's what he's doing. I mean, it should be, in my humble opinion, I don't know about a stupid question, but it shouldn't even have to be asked. It's basic, it's primal, you know, okay, yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's that 1%, and I don't mean to deride or ridicule them, but why do we have to completely change and ignore and just throw out definitions that we've had for thousands of years because of somebody feeling oppressed? I mean, it is bad that they feel oppressed. It's bad that they've been oppressed. I don't think that the answer, though, is throwing out all of our definitions. I think throwing out our definitions is gaslighting. Enigma Severus, basic questions have the uncanny issue of holding assumptions. Yeah, that's actually true.
Chest, because he said that she had brought shame on the family because she had been born a man. Now, I don't know whether biologically she was a woman. I know that she had, biologically she had a body of a man, and I presume that there are not a lot of facilities available to whether or not she'd had whatever operations were necessary. I don't think that legally she would have necessarily been defined as a woman. But, I think that we should start thinking about people and stop hiding behind some of these slightly silly arguments.
Do you struggle between telling the difference between a man and a woman?
I think a woman is a female.
Yes, I do. That's why I don't go to Vegas. I couldn't resist. Sorry. I know that was stupid.
Born adult. I do think there are people who are born in one gender and feel they belong in the other, and my heart goes out to them. And they're on a journey, perhaps, to make a change. But I just think this debate is so hot and full of hatred that we can't have a sensible discussion about it.
Where's the hatred coming from?
It comes from people who strongly feel that there is no such thing as sex and only gender. And on the other side, from people who want to provoke an argument in order to get away from the issues that are really troubling people.
When someone asks me...
I don't doubt that there is some truth to that. Sashi says that he is a villain. Villains can bring about lasting change if they're effective enough. Oh, my evil laugh used to be so much better when I had more lung capacity. Anyway.
What defines a woman? Well, I'll say somebody who earns less money for doing the same job, who still does the vast majority of care at home, and who still faces barriers to success in their lives. And those issues are as true today as they ever were. And I'm sort of uncompromising about that. But I also support, it's a very small number of people, but there is a small number of people who feel that they've been born into the wrong body and whose whole life is defined by that, and are often very abused and are subject to a huge amount of abuse and anxiety and mental health stress. And I've got a number of constituents that I've supported over the years, and I support them in their right to be who they want to be.
Are trans women women?
Well, that was a great. I mean, I don't think biologically they are. I think you can call them what you will, but biologically they clearly aren't.
And so that's why, when it comes to these questions, biological sex matters. Now that we can and will have compassion and tolerance and understanding for everybody.
Maybe I don't know if this is a good example for the point, but I think it's the most basic one, and I'm not trying to take a side as far as I don't want laws that oppress trans people. I don't want, people throwing a bunch of insults and anger and hatred and vitriol on them. 100% not. But definitions exist so that we can communicate. If we don't have definitions, I think communication breaks down. And when you get the communication breaking down, that's when you get all this hate and anger, because people are frustrated. We can't even talk, not because people are unreasonable so much, but because we don't even have a common language now to discuss things. But I posit that we don't have that common language because, and again, it's on both sides. I know my bias is only throwing the one side out, but it is on both sides. But you don't need me to tell you that. You can go to CNN, you can go to Reuters, you can go to the other places and find all kinds of examples, many of them legit, about the right doing X, Y, and Z. But I think it's been a deliberate thing. We want to tear down the definitions, and we want to do that because then we're never wrong, because there's no standard, there's no objectivity that we can be measured by. Whiskey Flat says that chromosomes don't lie. Yeah, and we've had that discussion offline about how, I know that sometimes people are born differently, and I get that. But at the end of the day, if you're born with one thing, then you're one thing. If you're born with the other, you're the other. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily be a certain way, but that is what you are. I don't mean to be mean. It's just what you are. I am bald. I can be upset about it all day long. I can put a wig on my head and pretend like I have hair. But at the end of the day, the fact is I'm bald. Enigma Severus, we've had so much peace during the era of life that we have become bored and need to create issues in order to have drama, in order to have chaos, sadly. And you also say, I have no problem if someone wants to destroy their body in a surgical fashion. Just don't force me to pretend that you've never surgically altered yourself because you wanted attention. I understand. Sashi says they're letting banned boxers fight women in the current Olympics. The ladies are getting pummeled by equality. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm almost done. Well, okay, I'm about 4/5, 5/5. So I'm certain fraction done. Math is hard. All right, I'm going to share this, and again, I know, I'm showing my bias. I probably lost a person because of that, but you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to figure it out. I know probably all of you have seen these things already. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir on this one, but part of why I'm hopping up and down about this is because I keep being told that certain media outlets are actually unbiased. I'm told that they actually are reporting facts. It's the other side that lies and exaggerates things and misreports things and spews out hate and misinformation. I would posit that the left's media is at least as, and honestly, I would suggest much more guilty of those things. I'm going to share these examples. There's conflicting accounts of the Trump shooter, Thomas Crook's social media emerging. This is part of the evolution of my thinking process has been this recent shooting of Donald Trump. I don't know that my liberal friends are going to hear this and listen to it, but we've got to step back. from a lot of this hate and vitriol. And I know it is true that it needs to happen on the other side as well. But Biden was not the one that was shot. So respectfully, I'm pointing at the left. I'm asking them to stop some of their activities. The media won't hear and listen. But my friends who I thought and hoped were intelligent and had critical minds, please look at this. And even if you don't end up agreeing with me, please understand why people are doing, saying, acting the way that they are. Conflicting accounts relating to social media belonging to former President Donald Trump shooter Thomas Crooks have emerged this week. On Tuesday, Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee to answer questions about the attempt against Trump's life at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13. Deputy FBI Director Paul Abate, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that all right, but anyway, he also appeared before the committee. On July 13, Crooks, 20, was identified as the individual who shot at the former president. We can't say that he was shot. We have to say he was shot at. Subtle, I know, but I can't help but point it out. You're kind of throwing out a narrative here. But anyway, he shot at the former president at a campaign rally while he was on stage, injuring his ear. I get my ear injured all the time when people shoot at me. You know, I'm just pointing that out. Again, words have meaning. They have definitions. If the bullet hit you, you are shot. Am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe I am. Crooks was later killed by the Secret Service, while one rally attendee also died and 2 others were in critical condition. During the hearing, Abate explained to senators that the FBI discovered 2 different social media accounts they believe may have belonged to Crooks. According to Abate, one account shared anti-Semitic topics and thoughts, but a second account on the platform Gab shared differing points of view. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I keep hearing one thing respectfully, because I know most of the people in the chat are right-wing, and I want to be respectful to that. I have heard lots of right-wingers tell me one set of information about the shooter, and I've heard my liberal friends say another set of information. And I've been trying to tie that together in my head, because there are some truths that are mutually exclusive, or I would think so. So I don't understand how both things can be true, and I suspect that probably they're not. That either one or both sets of information are lies. I don't know if I'm going to get around to finding the truth, but that's part of my endeavor here. Enigma Severus, I am sorry you're bald. I've gotten over it a long time ago. Nate Pergazzi says a bald eagle one day tried to smash an egg on your head because it thinks you are a rock. Well, that happened to Democritus, if I remember right. Enigma Severus also says every human has a bias. It is what makes us human. However, right and wrong is objective. Let's be honest, the radical left is really wanting to argue that wrong actions are right. They're not. Enigma Severus is also saying Crooks was a Biden supporter. Go figure. Considering his last actions. Yeah, I could be wrong, but humbly, I think that that is likely the case. If he was a Trump supporter, I think he would have. I know this is probably simplistic thinking, but if I support one candidate, I'm not going to shoot him. I'm just putting that out there. Now, of course, I know that what the left has been saying is that he's so far right that he thinks that Trump isn't right enough and therefore he must die. I'm not stating that as a fact. I'm just saying that is something that I have heard. The FBI admitted as much in the hearing this week. Apparently, Crooks was permitted support. Police refused drone support, said the Wi-Fi was bad, but Crooks was just fine. My information comes from the congressional hearing, so I'm not coming from my own bias. Well, good on you. I've heard some of them, not enough, but some of them. Conflicting accounts. Okay. While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from social media and other sources of information, to reflect on the shooter's potential motive and mindset. Abate said during the hearing while speaking about the social media accounts. However, in a post to X, formerly Twitter, on Tuesday, Gab CEO Andrew Torba said the FBI is now claiming that the Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks had an unspecified social media account in 2019-2020 when he was 14 or 15 years old that posted anti-immigrant and anti-Semitic content. This is not consistent with Gab's understanding of the shooter's motives based on an emergency disclosure request we received from the FBI. I almost shared that with you. I found that on X, but because it is just on X, I don't expect my left-leaning friends to give it any relevancy. But he is quoting something that you can find on X. This is not consistent with our understanding of the shooter's motives based on the emergency disclosure request we received from the FBI last week for the Gab account Epic Microwave, which, based on the content of that EDR, the FBI appeared to think belonged to Thomas Crooks. Torba said, the story is this: the account for which the data was requested was unequivocally pro-Biden, and in particular pro-Biden's immigration policy. To the best of Gab's knowledge, as of 2021, Crooks was a pro-lockdown, pro-immigration, left-wing Joe Biden supporter, Torba added in his post. Rowe recently took over as acting Secret Service director after Kimberly Cheadle resigned from the role. Cheadle faced widespread calls to step down following the shooting, with many criticizing her for the shooting. The FBI directed Newsweek to Abate's testimony after reaching out via email for comment. I believe that is the article. Now, I'm not trying to tell you which side you need to belong to. Having said that, one of these statements, at least, is a lie. I'm not going to believe that 14-year-old Crooks was talking a bunch of pro-Biden stuff, and then all of a sudden he became ultra, super right-wing, and therefore became inspired to shoot Trump. I'm sorry, I can't do the mental gymnastics to accept that. Maybe it's just my lack of intelligence. Maybe I am not seeing the obvious, but to me, he's one or the other. Either he's a right-wing wacko who thought it would be smart to shoot Trump, or he's a left-winger that thought that shooting Trump would get Biden the presidency. And you have to ask yourself, which of these scenarios sounds most reasonable? I'm not going to do your thinking for you at this point, but that is the question, based off of this information. The other thing I want to point out is I have a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have one or two liberal friends who believe that the thing was staged. Again, forgive me, but I can't do the mental gymnastics to accept that as a possibility any more than I can do the mental gymnastics to say that nothing untoward happened on January 6th. I know that there's debate about the extent of it, the reporting of it, but something happened. And I'm not going to go any further than that. But unless you want me to disregard my senses so much that I'm also willing to say that January 6th never happened, please don't try to tell me that Trump was willing to risk his own life, that basically he was so smart. Do you know how much he would have had to rehearse this to do it? Keanu Reeves would rehearse 8 hours a day to get the moves for John Wick. Now, I get that's much more complicated, and in theory, all Trump would have to do is practice a move. But if he gets the move wrong, he's dead. He's not playing with blanks. Now, of course, I know also the people who think this stage, well, it obviously was a blank. Right now, with all the fire that the Secret Service is going under, don't you think they'd love to find some blanks and just say, look, this was all staged, get off of our backs? If there isn't a bullet, they would tell us, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I know the Kennedy thing was a big foobar. Enigma Severus, the FBI admitted as much in this hearing. We've already read that. Yeah, and maybe I'm misapplying Occam's razor, but that's what I'm trying to do is basically go for the simplest explanation. And to me, the simplest explanation is, again, I'm not going to do all of everyone's thinking, but either this was someone so far right wing that he thought shooting Trump was good. For some reason, he didn't want to shoot Biden, but he wanted to shoot Trump. Or it's a left winger who wanted Biden to win and thought with Trump out of the way, it was going to happen. Enigma Severus, I mean, people still believe evolution happened. They twist themselves enough to ignore continual contradictions. That totally is a different can of worms. Sashi, you can watch Brandon Herrera's Recreation to disprove the stage for publicity narrative. I need to watch that. I do need to watch that. So, dude, I don't know. I hope that's a good dude. Oh, it is. I guess. I think Sashi loves at Sashi. Enigma Severus loves Brandon. I need to look at that. There's 100 things I need to do. Okay. So again, because I've been gaslit for so much of my life, I sometimes don't know if I can believe my senses. And I didn't want to talk about this and then just have my left-wing friends say, oh no, that's not what happened. That was false. That was fake. That was false news. That was things that right-wingers posted on X or what have you. This is Snopes.com. I know I'm being a little bit disingenuous because I've said that I have doubts about Snopes.com. But my left-wing friends believe in it. CNN published headline, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Users on X criticized the media outlet for a headline published when information about the July 13, 2024 shooting was still sparse. Here it is. I actually thought about showing that and then showing this, but I'm kind of trying not to take forever. According to Snopes, this is true, but we've got to provide context. And to be fair, I get it. The headline is real and was part of CNN's live coverage on Trump's rally. However, archived URLs prove it was published as media outlets were attempting to figure out what was going on. And before any news outlet could reasonably report that an attempted assassination had occurred. Fair enough. But you're asking me to deny my own senses once again. And I'm sorry, when I see Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally, what I'm thinking is we've got to make sure to make him look bad. We've got to be sure to get back at him because of all the stuff about Biden. You know, we don't really know what happened. I mean, yeah, there were cracks and this and that, and the Secret Service rushed over him, but we don't know what happened. So we're going to put it in the worst possible light possible. Now, humbly, I suggest that's not reporting, that's a narrative, that's a story. And I know newspapers write stories, but surely, please let me know if I'm going too far. This looks more like propaganda to me than news. And I had a friend once who challenged me and said he'd never seen CNN tell a lie. Well, man, one, I'm sorry, I count this as a lie. I would have been much more respectful of CNN if they had have said nothing at all until they had some idea what had happened, and then had given an unbiased report that Trump was shot in the ear and the Secret Service rushed him off the stage. That's what reporting is. This is not reporting. And I humbly suggest that this is a lie. And I don't really like lies. And now my mouse is frozen. I wonder if I'm still online. Why is my mouse frozen? I can't get back to that. Crap. Okay. Well, I honestly don't know if I'm still on the stream or not. My mouse is done. All right. My apologies, people. I had one more last great, wonderful point, but I may not be able to make it. Well, I am still online. I can't share the screen. I can't do anything, but I can still talk. So I'll do that until I'm done. I can't see if anyone's in the chat. I'm so sorry. My computer is doing something weird. And when I'm done here, I'm going to do the lovely Control-Alt-Delete thing. And if God is not angry with me, then my computer will work again. I've been going to end this by reading the final chapter, not the whole thing, but a portion of the final chapter of George Orwell's 1984. And unfortunately, an ex-girlfriend of mine had a dog who ate my physical copy of it, so I was going to read it off of the computer. I'm going to have to paraphrase it here. The main character, Winston Smith, has basically, Gary is saying on the phone that the alphabet soup is after me. I suppose it's possible. I doubt it. I would hope that I'm not big enough fish to fry, but Winston Smith had rebellious thoughts and did rebellious actions in the book and was finally captured and tortured and broken. And at the end of the book, he's sitting in a restaurant, he's drinking gin, he's kind of ruminating in his mind, and in the meanwhile, there's a news story going on, and the news story is that Oceania is at war with Eurasia because Oceania was always at war with Eurasia. No matter what you might think, they've always been at war with them. And for the first time in a long time, Eurasia was actually threatening. You know, I don't know if you know, but the world was divided into 3 nations, but they were eternally at war over North Africa and the Middle East. And so those territories would change back and forth just constantly, but the actual territories of Eurasia, Oceania, and East Asia, they were never truly threatened. There might be a rocket bomb or something, but they were never truly under a real threat. And Eurasia had broken through and was actually threatening, very close to attacking the actual territory of Oceania. And so everyone's scared, everyone's frightened, everyone's terrified. And even though he's beaten and broken, Winston Smith is also terrified. He's thinking about, what will it be like if invaders actually do come through and kill us and do horrible things to our women, horrible things to our people. But all of a sudden, there's another news break, and the army had a secret up its sleeve, and they attacked and they flanked the bad guys, and it was a complete victory. Rah, rah, the good guys won. And Winston Smith, because he was so pathetically broken down, because he was so dissociated from his community, it warmed what was left of his heart so much for his side to be winning that it broke the last vestiges of his anger and hatred toward the party. And I'll have to paraphrase it. I wish I had it memorized, but the last line of the book is something like, as gin-stained tears rained down his cheeks, Winston Smith had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother. And this is what I want to leave you with. I don't know if I've done a great job of establishing all this, but it's not enough, I believe, in the eyes of whoever, whether it's World Economic Forum or whoever is doing all of this. It's not enough to be able to abuse you. It's not enough to be able to tell you to do what you're told. You have to like it. You have to love it. And they will try to break you until you do. I don't really have any courageous statements to make. It would be nice to end this on a defiant note. I will never surrender. Well, I hope I don't. And I hope you guys don't either. But since I can't see anyone in the chat, I'll try to do it from memory. I'd like to, my mind is so bad. I would like to thank Enigma Severus. I would like to thank Matt Cheatwood. I would like to thank Lady Mist. I'd like to thank Sashi. I can't remember if I think JPRPH1 is at work. If I've forgotten anyone, and of course, my friend Whiskey Flats. He's texting me saying, "Freedom!" Love that movie. I can't play the music. I can't play. Hey, look at this. My mouse started to work. Crap. Well, anyway, maybe it's better this way. You don't hear me doing a bunch of reading. Okay. So let me read the chat, and also let me go back and see if I have missed anybody real quick. I don't think so, but the chronic fatigue is real. Enigma Severus, Matt Cheatwood, Sashi, Lady Mist. And Whiskey Flats Garden Railroad. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I don't know why my mouse did that. Okay, so let me read the last comments, and then I will play an outro and say farewell. The reason Enigma has so much logic is because his mother gaslighted me for most of my childhood. Oh, I get it. I'm sorry. I had to learn to listen to determine truth and lies. Also learn to dismiss emotions to determine what is the most logical. So I feel you there. His mother was very good at her gaslighting. So why ask questions to get information without the person knowing my real question? That is wise and that is deep. Okay, Whiskey Flats. Didn't they just say Kamala wasn't the borders? Yeah, I thought about using that example, but I'm baffled. I'm just baffled. Again, I don't want to go too far the other way and heap a bunch of insults on her, but I just don't understand why. What has she done that makes her such a hero? And forgive me, but what has she done that compares to? I'm going to be totally unfair here. What has she done that has caused us to forget within just 2 weeks that a man was shot in the ear, stood up and told us to fight, and had left wingers everywhere going, oh my gosh, this man is a badass. But now we've forgotten that because we were at war with Eurasia, and we've always been at war with Eurasia. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was still on the stream when my computer wanted to try to freeze. I've been locked out. They're coming for me. Well, as long as somebody takes care of my dog, I'm okay if they take care of me. Windows, who knows what Windows is doing. And yeah, Whiskey Flats Garden Railroad, you're exactly right. It's as simple as that. We've got a group that decided, you had the people that were towing the party line all along, but I think the people who have converted over, they looked at January 6th, they listened to the things that were reported to them, and they decided that we hate Trump, and that's all that matters. All right, I've probably babbled enough. Hopefully you learned a little bit. Hopefully it's a little bit entertaining. And I haven't been locked down by the government. We'll see if YouTube takes down the stream. I don't think they will, but you never really know. Somebody else made a comment. Thank you very much, Matt Sheewood. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I make these things for you guys, and I need to boot up my game, but one day at a time. And in Miss Everest, I literally downloaded the video where Trump blatantly said it's not about him, they want to control us. That's why they want him gone. Yeah, it's not necessarily about being pro-Trump, but it seems to be true, or at least it seems to me to be true, that any action, any lie, any digression from believing what our senses show us is justified as long as Trump's not the next president. Matt Cheatwood, people will stop when he is gone. They're sadly mistaken. I don't think I can say anything to augment that comment at all. I love all of you. I know that's fruity and flaky, but one of the things that I am establishing. While I may show my bias, I hope none of this descended into actual hate speech. Hate can be a great motivator, but I at least want to believe that love is more powerful, that it will lead us into a lot better place than hate will. Don't forget, in 1984, if you haven't read the book, they had to have a 10-minute hate every day. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, too. Good friends that used to be calm and level-headed, loving, are spewing a bunch of hate and don't even seem to realize it. I don't know what to do about it. But, Sasha, you are also right. I don't have to necessarily bring it up to them. Join forces. I am with you. Matt Cheatwood, great statement. I don't hate them. I love freedom. No spaces. All right. Thank you for watching. Try to stay free. Try not to listen to the gaslighting. And just remember, you're not going mad. You're going sane in a world gone mad. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful